Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it away. Tonight, we gonna let it away. Tonight, we gonna let it away. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it away. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it away. Tonight, we gonna let it away. Tonight, we gonna let it away. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it away.
Hey guys, how are we doing tonight? Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Happy Sunday. Hopefully you guys are having a great Sunday. Hopefully you guys are having a great evening. But welcome on in. Sorry that I kind of popped my live on really quick for you guys tonight. I was sitting here and I thought that I had it already scheduled. And I had it all scheduled except for my thumbnail. And I completely forgot to put the thumbnail on and hit schedule. So I'm sorry about that. So sorry. But you guys know me, you know, I'll be here around 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every evening. So, but welcome in. If you're new to the channel, my name is Tanya or TitaniumBuilt. Thank you for joining me. And for everyone that's returning, for the Titans that are coming in, thank you for joining me for another live. I appreciate it. I see we have some people in the chat, so we'll say a quick hello and then we'll get into tonight's case coverage. Also, I found where last night we were going over some questions questions I had about the case. And one of them was about the shoe, the latent shoe print. Well, I found where it said that Dylan Mortensen testified to the grand jury that she saw a boot. So I'll show you that here in a moment. I read through that whole thing again. I was like, I'm going to look for this. I'm going to find it. And I did. Hey, Ladybug. Hey, Mary Beth. I was proud of myself for finding it. Hey, baby girl. Welcome on in, everybody. Welcome in. It's good to see you guys. Hey, Triple L. Good to see everybody again. If you weren't over in the live from earlier today, we had a live on the second channel. So, hey, Sailor. Hey, Spinster. Welcome in. It's good to see everybody. 99 days. We used to have a lady in our chat, and she would count down the days and when that we thought we were going to have a preliminary hearing. And I remember the chat would be wild back then. I mean, the chats were wild. every chat for Idaho was wild. But she would be like the voice of reason, like, the calm person. She's like, just remember, we only have 120 days until trial. It would be like really funny because, and then we didn't end up going to trial. Hey, Willows. Hey, Tish. Welcome on in. And hopefully I don't miss anybody. Hey, Michael. I'm still kind of going through it. But hey, CJK. Welcome in. Hey, Shells. Princess is here. I said CJK twice. I don't know. I don't think that's what it's about, but I don't know. They are having a secret meeting, though, on the 5th. Oh, that's okay. Yes. Is it tomorrow? Yeah, it is tomorrow. Oh, is this? Oh. It's because I was on the other mic. Thank you for saying something, Triple L. It was the other mic. Sorry, guys. You can probably hear me a lot better. So sorry. Well, welcome in. If you couldn't hear me before, I should have switched my mic. I switched my camera. My camera switched, I think. Yeah, I'm good there. I always forget to do that. It's because we had a live earlier. So if we ever have a live, Triple L, it's your job to be the first one over here to tell me. I'm just kidding. To turn on my mic. I always forget to turn it on. And so I was going from my Mac. Now you can really hear the dogs. The MacBook speaker. So sorry about that. Hopefully everyone isn't like, we're leaving. We can't even hear the girl. Hey, Machachi, you just got home from surfing. Man, that's amazing. That's amazing. And thanks, Triple L. I wouldn't have even figured it out because my lights all lit up and everything. I always say I should come in and do like this where I can see the bubble move, like, to turn my camera off. So I'm going to show you guys this really quick before we get started, but we are going to be talking about Brian Kohlberger tonight, the suspect in the 2022 University of Idaho quadruple murders. He has been compared to Ted Bundy, the notorious serial killer active in the 1970s, due to similarities in their backgrounds, the alleged crimes, and public perception, pretty much. So, however, there are some significant differences that do exist, and the comparisons often stem from speculation rather than, the evidence. So we're going to go through those. So tonight we're going to explore some of the similarities and the differences between the two. I have some video clips and some articles to read to you guys, and we will go from there. And I have a Fox News Nation special that they did over the two. So we'll go over that. But I wanted to show you guys this before we got started because I was like, I knew that we had read that Dylan Mortensen said that he was wearing black boots, the person in the house that night. According to the PCA, it says something different. So I'm just going to go over what the PCA says and then what she has said now since December 1st, 2022. So she, in the PCA, it says here, I didn't actually I have the whole page highlighted. So there we go. During the processing of the crime scene, investigators found a latent shoe print. This was located during the second processing of the crime scene by the ISP forensic team by first using a presumptive blood test and then AminoBlack, a protein stain that detects the presence of cellular material. The detective shoe print showed a diamond-shaped pattern similar to the pattern of a Vans type shoe sole just outside the door of DM's bedroom located on the second floor. That's what the PCA said. That's what we've been going by. So we were assuming, he was probably just wearing a Vans type of shoe. But December 1st, when she's interviewing with forensic interviewer Erin Williamson, she describes the ski mask. And then she reiterates, her point. And then she says, Mortensen then describes the male's clothing as black long sleeves, black pants, and black boots. She gave a consistent description of the mask and noted the eyebrows. I don't remember if I saw one or two. It was just weird. So I don't know whose shoe print it would have been outside the door. I mean, it could have been anybody's. Maybe Hunter Johnson did go upstairs and to check on Kaylee and Maddie. or maybe it was Dylan when she was coming out of her room, even though it was facing towards like the kitchen. Maybe she went that way. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess, during trial. But I just thought it was kind of weird, you know? Hey, Dana, babe. Hey, Squeaky. Welcome in, everyone. It's been raining here all day, Mary Beth. It's been terrible. So I have some things I can read over, which this is my, I'm going to show you. This is my old Canva like thing. When I did this probably 2.5 years, so the case has been 2.5 years. So probably two years ago. So it's very basic, but it's what I put together for you guys. I remember doing this, but I remember doing there's differences. I have one similarities and then one for differences. So this is the similarities, I believe. Yeah, it is. So, but the difference between Brian Kohlberger and Bundy and Kohlberger. What parallels are the same? So the same are the college house. They both left something behind. Girl survived. More than one person at the house. Same age, first alleged killed. Well, they're about the same age. Bundy was 27 and Brian was 28. And they were both considered intelligent. Both were caught weeks after the crime. I have a snoring dog back here. Some of the differences in the two. These are all going to be like more geared towards Bundy and not Kohlberger. But Ted Bundy kidnapped, Ard, and M'd numerous young women and girls. He confessed to 30 murders committed in 7 states. Bundy was often regarded as charismatic and handsome. I remember my mom saying that he was charismatic. He typically approached women in public places, either asking for help by feigning a physical impairment, such as an injury, or impersonating an authority figure. He'd walk around with his little crutches and drop his little briefcase or whatever, and the girls would, someone would want to help him. He didn't seem like he was, he's a guy has these crutches. He seems like he's like immobile, doesn't seem like he's a threat. At least 12 of his victims were decapitated and their severed heads kept as mementos in his apartment. Bundy was a sick human being. Bundy engineered 2 dramatic escapes and committed further murders in Florida. Bundy killed his victims with blunt objects. Talkative while the trial process happened, representing himself at some point. That's supposed to be some point, not home point. I haven't spelled that wrong. Some point. So News Nation, when was this? A year ago, they did a segment with, she's FBI, but it's not Coffindorfer, it's the other girl. And they did a parallel, they're just doing the parallels between, Bundy and Kohlberger. But they do have her on here. I'm trying to think of her name. Tracy Waldler. That's who it is. So we'll listen into this and see what they have to say. And then we'll go from there. But thank you guys for being here. If you guys don't mind, take a second, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe to the channel, we'd love to have you. And if you'd like to become a member, I'll put the membership link in the chat. I'll actually pin it here in just a moment to the top. I think that's usually what I do. Okay, there we go. I'll put it in the chat now. Let me move this over and I'll play this here for you guys. Thank you for being here.
Let's go ahead and welcome in our national security contributor and former FBI agent, Tracy Waldler. Tracy, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you for having me, Kelsey.
So Tracy, as a former FBI agent and a CIA officer, what insights can you provide on the Brian Kohlberger case and its similarities to other high-profile cases like the 1978 Chi Omega murders? Does this add up to you?
Yes and no. I can understand some of the similarities. In fact, I have no doubt in my mind that Brian Kohlberger, look, we know he was a criminal justice student. He was pursuing his PhD in criminology. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that he most likely studied the Bundy case. In fact, I teach it to my own college students because I teach criminal justice. So I have no doubt that he.
Sorry to interrupt her already, but I wonder if we could get the case load. Like, what is the study load, and what do you need to know in Dr. Ramsden's class? Like, I wonder if we could get that online.
He was absolutely familiar with the Bundy case. And yes, certainly he went into a home where there were members of two different sororities really in there. However, I see a few differences, and the difference that I actually see is their demeanor. Bryan Kohberger, if we look at sort of the reporting that's been done about him, he was not someone that I would say is charming. He's not someone, by all accounts, he was standoffish, and he didn't get along with a lot of people. Ted Bundy actually used his charm to commit a lot of his crimes. Another thing that we can look at in terms of similarities of the types of crimes, we know Bundy bludgeoned a lot of his victims to death, and we have Kohberger who stabbed them. So that's an intimate crime. So there's similarities and differences between the two.
Well, this week we also know that the Kohberger defense requested a full record of grand jury proceedings and evidence for the case. What do you anticipate is the defense's next move?
So it looks like they're asking about the grand jury because they are thinking that the grand jury, and they're most likely correct, was convened just for this, that there wasn't a grand jury that was in place beforehand. And I think therein lies why they feel that there is most likely a bias, though I personally don't necessarily think that that's the case. That's what they're going to do. Also, all of the evidence, whether we like it or not, and whether we think he's guilty or not, he is entitled to all of that evidence. And so my guess is that they may even be asking for more time at this point once they are able to get their hands on all of the evidence.
Kind of sounds like it's going to be an uphill battle for the Kohberger defense team. So we also know that he's received intense scrutiny nationwide. Can you kind of elaborate on the challenges involved in maintaining a fair and unbiased trial despite such strong emotions?
You really hit the nail on the head right there, Kelsey. I think it's really hard. It's hard to find a non-biased jury, and it's hard to find a broad jury pool to pull from. And so I think, while I do think this is going to be an uphill battle from an evidence perspective for the defense, I do think that they are going to have an interesting argument regarding the media coverage and the bias that people have, and that ultimately will impact the jury selection. I'm wondering if at some point they're going to ask for a change of venue, though I don't know what good that's necessarily going to do because this case has had so much media coverage.
Tracy, is the death penalty for Bryan Kohberger, is that still at play in this case?
Oh, absolutely. And we know that recently Idaho did bring back death by firing squad is an option. Folks can choose in multiple states. And so it's absolutely on the table. In fact, this is, again, just my hypothesis. I would imagine that the defense is going to try to use that as a bargaining chip to hopefully, in their perspective, get that taken off of the table in exchange for a possible life if he is ultimately convicted of these crimes, because right now he's just accused.
Okay, Tracy, well,
Do you think that they'll go for that?
thank you.
Yeah, okay. So I don't think that I don't know. I don't think that the prosecution is going to go for a plea deal. In the beginning, and I still think that he might try, towards when we get a little more towards trial, because I mean, being sentenced to death is a lot different than being sentenced to life. You get a lot more, you get a lot more perks with just being in prison for life. You can actually be around other prisoners. You're not locked up 23 hours a day in your cell. You're not isolated. You're not thinking about, when's your time going to come? I guess when's that paper going to come and have your date on it? You get commissary, all that stuff. I don't know if you get that on death row. I don't know if you get commissary on death row. That's a good question. But I do want to know about Catherine Ramsland's, her class load, like what her class entails, what books they have to read, what papers they have to write. I want to know everything. I'm about to take the class. Wonder if I could. Is that online? Can we do that online? Hey, Warflare. This is exactly what the DP is for. Yep. You're absolutely right. So it says here, Newsweek put this out December 30th. It was updated December 30th, 2022. So, man, they didn't even. How the heck was it? Man, what were they? How did they get this out so quick? Bryan Kohberger photo sparks Ted Bundy comparisons in appearance, age, and more. This is right when he was arrested. The suspect in the slayings of 4 University of Idaho college students is drawing comparisons to serial killer Ted Bundy after mug shots began making their way across the internet Friday. The suspect arrested in Pennsylvania on Friday, Brian Koberger, was a PhD student in the Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology at Washington State University, nearly 300 miles from Bundy's alma mater. Bundy received his undergraduate degree from the University of Washington, majoring in psychology before moving on to law school at the University of Utah. Bundy stalked and killed college students. Koberger, 28, is accused of doing the same. Both also had chilling similarities in their interests that hinted at crimes. A Reddit post seemingly belonging to Koberger, unearthed shortly after his arrest, appeared to show him asking questions about how crimes are committed, how victims are targeted, and how somebody would leave a crime scene. Bundy, who was roughly the same age as Koberger at the time of his first murder, spent time as assistant director of the Seattle Crime Prevention Advisory Commission in Olympia, Washington, where he wrote a pamphlet for women on our prevention. Wow, that's scary. The most chilling comparison, however, is their likeness. Is side-by-side comparison of their mugshots posted on social media. Both men have similar hairstyles and eyebrows. I don't think so, not the eyebrows. The same thin lips, gaunt cheekbones, and matching ears. Their ears are matching? Okay, I don't see the ears really at all. I see the eyes, like the slanting a little bit of the eye. The eyebrows, I don't see that part. I see maybe the bone structure could be the same right there. Brian looks a little skinnier too, to me. It says, I'm creeped out by the similarities with Ted Bundy. Both studied psychology/criminology at UW. I was a Chi Omega sorority member in the 90s, and we never forgot what Ted did. Oh, and that was tweeted by someone. Though little is known about the motivations driving the Idaho killings, the nature of the crimes drew comparisons to Bundy well before Friday's photo release. In early December, John Henry Brown, Bundy's one-time attorney, told news outlets he believed there were numerous similarities between the Idaho killings and those committed by his client, who left behind only paltry evidence at the start of his killing spree that left some 36 dead. Just the randomness of it is actually something that does stand out. Of course, most of Ted's misbehavior was random. There were times when Ted would follow people and then decide not to kill them. And that was his way of exercising his grandiosity. You know, I can control life here and there. That's scary. Koberger is being held for extradition in Monroe County Court in Pennsylvania for first-degree murder by the Moscow Police Department, as well as Latah County Prosecuting Office in Idaho. Victims of the November 13 killings were Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, both 20, and classmates Kaylee Gonzalez and Madison Mogan, 21-year-olds, all killed early in the morning in their off-campus home in Moscow. And this is Koberger is expected in court next week, and he was. He did go to court that week. So this is a newer video. This is from 3 weeks ago. So I guess I told you, we're kind of going back like in time because they came out with Daily Mail True Crime came out with this video short, and it's titled "Why People Compare Brian Koberger to Ted Bundy." So
the internet,
let's see what they have to say,
is buzzing with comparisons between Brian Koberger and Ted Bundy, two men linked by their academic interests in psychology and criminal justice. Pointing to mugshots and clues about the crimes themselves, observers have been drawing parallels between killings that occurred more than 40 years apart. While Bundy was a convicted serial killer, Koberger remains a suspect in the 2022 Idaho murders. Bundy earned a psychology degree from the University of Washington and even worked at a suicide prevention hotline, where he was known for his calm and collected demeanor. Koberger.
Can you imagine you calling into an S hotline and that's who you get? Theodore Bundy. How can I help you? Did he really help people? I mean,
followed a similar academic path, studying psychology before obtaining a master's degree in criminal justice. Bundy was known for stalking young, college-aged women before launching his brutal attacks, often in places where they felt safe. Likewise, the 4 victims in the Idaho murders were all university students, and their killings were carried out with an intimate and violent weapon, a knife. Police later linked Koberger to the crime scene through DNA found on a leather knife sheath. Even their mugshots have drawn comparisons, with social media users pointing out their similar facial features and expressions. Former Bundy defense attorney John Henry Brown also noted the parallels, stating that both cases seem to reflect a killer who wasn't necessarily targeting a single individual, but was driven by a need to exert control. While Bundy's crimes are well documented, Koberger's fate remains in the hands of the justice system.
I was about to say, I was just about to turn it. Just because I feel like, sorry, I felt like it was about to be over. Didn't mean to cough in your guys' ears like that. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, I do see some of the similarities, but for the most part, there are, I think, a lot of differences. But Ted Bundy's lawyer did come out and, say he thought that they felt similar. I guess so, because they were sorority girls, I could, be a part of it too. Bundy went into a sorority house at one point and unalived, women. Some of them survived that brutal attack. I couldn't imagine the women, like, I mean, the women that were killed, that's like brutal. That's like the ultimate like that's like the ultimate, thing. But having to live through something like that, and then, I just feel so bad for Bundy's victims. And I'm just as much as I feel bad for allegedly Koberger's victims. So a former defense attorney for Ted Bundy has described a fascinating parallel between the infamous serial killer's last act and the charges against University of Idaho student murders suspect Bryan Kohberger. Okay, while also revealing he was consulted on the latter, but chose not to get involved. So what? You were consulted on Kohberger's case? Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see about that, right? I guess. Bundy escaped prison in Colorado, where the death penalty would soon be found unconstitutional, only to head to Florida, commit more murders, and wind up on death row. You dumbass. I mean, that's a dummy move. Bundy then torpedoed his own plea deal, which would have spared him from execution, his former attorney John Henry Brown said. But he found it eerily similar to the charges against Kohberger, a Washington State University PhD student who is accused of driving across state lines into Idaho to commit a quadruple murder. Here's some guy who drives 10 miles from a state where there's no death penalty, a state where there's an active mental health defense, to a state where there is no mental health defense, and the death penalty is very active. I think it's just fascinating to me. I don't know why. I don't know what to imply from it, but I know the facts are the facts. That's true. I wonder, I mean, I guess we can ask Bundy if he was, still around. We could ask him why he did it. Like Bundy's Florida State University Chi Omega sorority house rampage, Kohberger is accused of attacking 4 college students hours before sunrise, entering through a back door while at least some of the victims were sleeping. Brown also told Fox News Digital that prosecutors' theory about a potential motive, while not required to bring charges, would be of great interest to jurors. As the case becomes clearer and we're dealing with 30, 40, 50 or more deaths, the motives become pretty clear in Ted's case. That it was a power struggle much more than sex, he said. And all the victims in Ted's case were not SA'd. A lot of people don't know that. As for Kohberger's case, prosecutors have revealed little about what his motive might have been. I have no idea what the state's theory is about why Kohberger chose these people in this house to go kill and leave a knife sheath that has DNA on it. Latah County Judge John Judge entered not guilty pleas on Kohberger's behalf during his arraignment in May of 2023. Wow. We're in May 2025. Can you believe that? Wow. Thank you for becoming a member. She wears funny hats. Welcome on in. Thank you. No, Mary Beth, you're not the only one. I'm like that. Oh, Suzanne, really? Yeah, I guess that, yeah. I don't have his email, Reba. I'm sorry. I don't think I have his email. Yeah, Squeaky. I was thinking that the other day about Israel Keys. other document that we've been reading, that huge one, there's actually an Israel Key section. And I thought about maybe going over that case with you guys too. He was a psychopath if I've ever heard of one. I mean, he literally buried his kill kits around. And then he killed himself. He took everything with him, to the grave. So where were we at? The 30-year-old is accused of fatally stabbing 21-year-old best friends Maddie Mogan and Kaylee Gonzalez, their housemate Xana and her boyfriend Ethan. The attack took place around 4 a.m. on November 13th in a 6-bedroom house just steps away from the university campus. If it had happened on Washington side of the state line where Kohberger was studying for his PhD in criminology, the suspect would not face the death penalty and could use an insanity defense. It's not the first time Kohberger's arrest had been compared to Bundy's Florida attack. Bundy survivors Karen Pryor and Cheryl Thompson spoke to Fox Nation about their ordeal last year. And we're going to watch that. Bundy snuck into the Chai? I think it's Kai. Omega house around 3 a.m. on January 15th, 1978. Entering through the back door, inside he bludgeoned the sleeping Margaret Elizabeth Bowman with the club, then strangled her. In the next room, he beat S.A.'d and killed Lisa Janet Levy. Before fleeing the scene, he attacked 2 other young women, Karen Chandler and Kathy Kleiner, who survived. He was a coward, Kleiner Rubin told Fox News Digital. Bundy had broken her jaw with the club when a late returning sorority sister's headlights shone through the window. He fled. She survived. She got so lucky. If I were his lawyers, I would start playing offense a lot, Brown told Fox News Digital, because you're not going to get anywhere in a case like this playing nice. Well, maybe she took your advice. Kohberger, who had his master's degree in criminal justice from DeSales University, was trying to get his PhD in criminology at Washington State University, studied under Catherine Ramsland, a leading expert on serial killers, who has written articles and books on many of them, including Bundy. You got your readers on. Vincent saw the readers at Sam's the other day, and he's like, "Are those prescription glasses?" And I'm like, "No, those are readers." I'm like, that it was cute. Sometimes I gotta teach him things. I'm like, "You don't need those." He takes his blood pressure every time we go. Brown attempted to negotiate a plea for Bundy that would have spared him execution, but the serial killer sabotaged it himself and wound up on the electric chair. Man. Earlier this month, Boise Judge Stephen Hippler rejected a dozen of Kohberger's defense team's motion to strike the death penalty. Capital punishment remains on the table if he is convicted. Brown said the defense should continue to aggressively seek to make life for the prosecution as difficult as possible in order to aggressively attack the case. Something Kohberger's defense team of Ann Taylor, Jay Logston, which he's out, and Elisa Massive have been working on for over a year. But the defense's attack plan may have turned off the judge too. Kohberger's team turned to a motion for a Franks hearing, which is an attempt to throw out some of the search warrants in the case. However, Hippler told them to refile it with proper citations after reminding Logston it's not his job to look through the 2,000 pages of attached exhibits to figure out what they are talking about. By way of example, defendant cites generally to Exhibit D9 for the proposition that law enforcement's vehicle expert felt more comfortable setting the date range of 2011 to 2013 for the Elantra, Hippler wrote. That exhibit is over 100 pages of duplicative emails. Defendant does not identify which email supports his proposition. The court will not do counsel's job and scour the exhibit to decide what portion defendant must be suggesting supports his assertion. Brown said such motions are rarely successful. He tried hundreds of cases and only had 3 work out, but it can cripple the state's case if it works. Another item the defense may want to try to consider whether to waive Kohberger's right to be tried before a jury and leave his fate in the hands of the judge. Don't do that. Kohberger, I wouldn't. Nope, not Judge Hippler. John Judge, maybe I would do that. No, don't do a bench trial. I mean, that defense lawyer he's not getting any points from me right now. I would never do that. If I knew that I wasn't guilty of something and our judge wasn't like looking at me like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like Judge Hippler be looking at Koberger, then maybe, but no, I'd rather have 12 people decide my fate than just one person. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's judges on the side of the families. I feel like that too. Monchichi, those donuts were so good. I had like 1.5 and I'm like, I shouldn't have ate all of them. I mean, that's not a lot, but it is when it's those donuts. Those things will fill you up. So where were we at? I keep talking about my donuts. Now I'm going to be losing my spot. It says, there is always a possibility, but not a very good one. And that is that you could waive the jury and try the case to the judge. Bundy, represented by a different lawyer at the time, did that in Utah and got a lenient sentence. It didn't work out for Jose Ibarra, Lakeland Riley's killer, who was convicted last week and sentenced to life in prison without parole, the stiffest punishment available because the prosecutor on the case did not seek the death penalty. But mathematically, Brown believes it can sometimes be to the defendant's advantage to have a jury. All you need is to convince 1 out of the 12 there's reasonable doubt, and then you get a mistrial. But then you start all over. Koberger's refiled Frank's motion was due Tuesday, but had not been made public by the court as of this writing. His trial is tentatively scheduled to begin in 2025. Brown is the author of the book. We don't need to know about that. We need to know about his book. Bundy was a former law student. Koberger studied criminology and serial killers. Well, yeah. I don't know if he studied like Ted Bundy, though, per se. Like, I feel like if he was in Dr. Ramsden's class, she was, you know, not like infatuated, but she wrote a book and she knew like the ins and outs of like BTK. And I feel like she would direct her class to maybe read those books and stuff. I mean, it would put money in her pocket. That's what I would do. I'd be like, everybody go buy my book and go read it. We're just scooting through this. Okay. So, I'm going to play this for you guys. It's 32 minutes. It's Parallels of Evil, the Bundy and Idaho killings. So it's going to talk about what we've been talking about all night, the difference between Ted Bundy and Brian Koberger. It has Nancy Grace in it. It also has a couple of, the 2 victims that survived Bundy's attack. And it just has some other people in it that are going to contribute to the conversation. I will pause it for commentary here and there. If anybody has any questions, let me know. I'll be in the chat with you guys watching this. So that's all I've got. If you guys don't mind, take a second, hit the like button. If you want to join our channel membership, we'd love to have you. It's just pinned at the top of the chat. So if you guys decide you want to become members, you could just follow the link there. Let me actually turn this down a little bit so it doesn't like get your ears.
A couple of young co-eds were killed in their sleep.
Police in Moscow, Idaho, found the bloody bodies of 4 University of Idaho students.
Most brutal and a savage crime on the Florida State University campus.
Despite hundreds of tips and interviews, authorities have yet to identify a suspect.
The Tallahassee police tell us they don't have much to go on right now. No hard leads, no suspects.
This shaken college town community, along with the grieving parents, are still demanding answers.
It makes me sad that they've got to go through what Tallahassee went through.
Sent my daughter to college to get an education. She came back in a box.
You're really taking away what you think of as the safest place in the world.
A seemingly random attack in the dark, early morning hours. College co-eds coming home for the night. Just at the edge of campus, they all head to bed when a lone man appears in the dark of the room to unleash unbelievable violence. We investigate the stunning parallels between 2 horrific crimes, and we look ahead to what the future might hold. Is history destined to repeat itself? Ted Bundy survivors weigh in.
When you read the headlines out of Idaho, what did you think? I was really saddened to hear about the news that happened.
That news brings Cheryl Thomas,
County, Florida, did then and there unlawfully attempt to kill a human being, to wit, Cheryl Thomas, by beating her about the head.
back to the darkest moments of her life, the night she was attacked in her own bed by serial killer Ted Bundy.
I could relate. It was a click immediately reaction to that scene.
What about it, Karen?
It does bring back that memory
Attempt to kill a human being, to wit, Karen Chandler.
of shock.
Karen
She's
Pryor,
beautiful.
then Chandler,
She looked like my mother almost when she was young.
relives those same horrors of barely escaping death at the hands of Ted Bundy.
Really did.
Even though I experienced it, it's still shocking to think that could happen, there'd be somebody that evil that would do something like that. And who could possibly hate people so much that they would do something so, go into a private residence where you feel safe and massacre them.
In the early morning hours, January 15, 1978, Ted Bundy, on the run after escaping prison in Colorado, breaks into the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. There, he brutally bludgeons 4 college girls, leaving 2, Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy, dead. 2 more barely clinging to life. Karen is one of those survivors.
I'd covered my face and I was kind of stumbling down the hall. Several girls ran to phones. There were 3 phones upstairs. And they called, and there was some garbled message apparently to 911 that there had been a fight at the sorority and there were some girls that were hurt. So when my parents were called, that's what they were told.
As police race to the scene, Bundy's spooked by a car pulling into the sorority house parking lot. He makes his way down the street and continues his rampage.
I'm thinking the rage that went through the sorority house where murders were happening, attacks, it must have set off his rage even more.
Bundy enters this duplex and attacks Cheryl Thomas in her own bed with the same brutality he displayed just moments before.
My neighbors heard when I was being attacked. They heard moaning, so they called and they could hear through the wall my phone ringing. I didn't answer. Then they called again and they heard running. So at that point, Ted Bundy was running out and getting out through the kitchen window. And they called 911 because it was just too weird of a sound of going next door.
Having suffered severe head injuries, Cheryl's rushed to the hospital in a coma. Her assailant is nowhere to be found for weeks. He leaves behind stockings he used to cover his face and a distinct bite mark on one victim, yet police still have no immediate suspect. The community living in fear with a violent criminal walking amongst them.
The devastating and mysterious murders of 4 University of Idaho students that have gripped the nation.
Moscow, Idaho, a college town nestled in beautiful mountains. It's an idyllic spot where many leave their doors unlocked and don't bat an eye at a passing stranger. Until November 13th, 2022, that is. On that fateful day, Moscow becomes the backdrop to a horrific crime, reminiscent of the brutal slayings 4 decades before in Florida. Kelly Gonsalves, Maddie Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin are stabbed dead after a night out. The suspect also nowhere to be found. The details of that night draw many parallels to Ted Bundy.
I think we're going to see a Bundy-like character emerge here. Homicidal maniac. I see so many similarities in this case and Ted Bundy.
There have been a lot of mass murderers, but he seemed to almost pick a murder that mirrored one of Bundy's murders. Is that a coincidence? I don't know.
And how do you believe they mirror each other?
Because he broke into, as Bundy broke into the sorority house and went kind of systematically from person to person to kill him.
We cannot say that there's no threat to the community. And as we have stated, please stay vigilant Report any suspicious activity and be aware of your surroundings at all times.
The story explodes with speculation about a serial killer on the loose.
Ted Bundy, believe it or not, gave me a release of the attorney-client privilege in writing back before he was executed.
Ted Bundy's former lawyer, John Henry Brown, tells us he stopped doing interviews until he heard about this case.
This situation I felt is different in that I just started in my head putting together some things that are...
He must have been a really young attorney if he was an attorney for Ted Bundy, right?
glaringly similar. So I decided, well, this is an issue that I'm willing to talk about.
At first, I didn't pay much attention.
The case also catches the eye of private investigator Bill Warner. Although he has no involvement in this case or Bundy's, Warner studies violent crime.
And right away, I thought, well, this is some kind of a copycat of Bundy.
It's very somber standing here at the scene of the four murders. The comparisons and the parallels to Ted Bundy are overwhelming. In both cases, the suspect, the defendant, approached a home dwelling. There was more than one person in the home. That did not seem to deter them. They stalked their victims at night in the cover of darkness.
I just keep imagining them in the dark, in bed, drifting off to sleep. They had been out. A couple had been to a party and a food truck.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back.
A couple more had been to a fraternity house party. So they may have had a couple of drinks and were tired. It was really late at night. And I imagine that they were getting ready to or had already dozed off.
I was sort of hoping, because I was not aware of my attack because I was knocked unconscious. I was hoping that maybe they didn't see the whole trauma happening to themselves.
Upstairs, police find two victims, best friends, Kelly Gonsalves and Maddie Mogan, and a knife sheath with DNA on it lying next to Maddie's body. On the second floor, Kelly and Maddie's roommate, Xana Kernodle, and her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin's bodies are also discovered. Also on this floor, a survivor who comes face to face with the killer, who she describes as a masked man with bushy eyebrows. On the first floor, another survivor.
I do find it very interesting. And I think that what got my attention to begin with is an eyewitness was left. Leaving an eyewitness is very strange to me. There were eyewitnesses left, obviously, in Florida at the scene.
How do you feel when you think back on the girls that were killed? Because you lived, you survived. You're also in the position of the beautiful young girls and Ethan that were killed because you also were attacked and were bludgeoned within an inch of your life.
I'm sad that they don't have the rest of their lives to succeed in their goals. They were college students that were just dreaming for their careers and what they wanted to do. They don't have the chance now, and it's heartbreaking.
It's so random, and the manner of homicide was so brutal. I've done probably 50 murder cases in my career, maybe more, and these are the only two that have those similarities. Almost all of them involve weapons, guns mostly, or fist fights, things like that, or self-defense. This is just downright brutal. It's rage. Whoever did this was full of rage.
I mean, what were your injuries? They were horrific, both of you.
The first blow hit my face, and I had skull fractures.
Bundy savagely beats Karen with a log in a barbaric attack.
I had all my bones in my face were broken, teeth were knocked out. But I think because I did this, the second blow broke my arm and crushed my fingers instead of hitting my face.
Bundy uses the very same log to unleash terror on Cheryl.
What was the extent of your injuries?
I had multiple skull fractures and I had a broken jaw, just like Karen, but one of the skull fractures severed the hearing nerve, so I'm deaf in my left ear as a result of the head injuries.
A log, a knife, both weapons require the killer to come within inches of their victims. Both require time and an inhuman level of rage.
They're brutal, and they're designed to basically destroy the inside of your body as well as the outside of your body. That's an indication of a great deal of rage on the part of the perpetrator, no question about it.
The indications are that he took a lot of glee into stabbing these victims into a horrific situation. Ted Bundy was a narcissistic serial killer of power control. He had no empathy to the victims. He got off on the pain.
In many of the photos you see of 1122 King, it looks as if it's surrounded by trees, and you have to wonder how someone up in this parking lot can see through all that foliage. Well, it's not like that at all. When you look through it, there are hardly any trees.
This MO in this case was obviously somebody watching these girls. I went online and I got a blueprint of what the layout of the house was. Once I saw the location of the house, like bells went off. I said, wait a minute, this is a stalker's paradise.
Both of your attacks were under the cover of darkness, late at night. I believe he had been watching you to see that you were going to sleep.
Maybe he was looking at the lay of the land, and the sorority house was right across from campus. I mean, campus was on the other side of the street. So somebody walking up and down, seeing girls walk in and out.
It's sort of intimidating that I wasn't aware at all of someone looking through the window or watching me, maybe following me.
Ted did stalk people because he liked to play God. So he said, okay, I followed her from the bar to the bus stop.
His eyebrows look bushier
bus
there.
Stop to the alley, and now, no, I'm going to let this one live.
He stalked these young girls. He had a particular type he wanted, a certain type of hair, all of that.
And that creates fear throughout Florida State. According to the Orlando Sentinel, female students refuse to walk the campus without escorts. Some even buy large dogs for protection.
Smart.
Some parents make their daughters drop out of Chi Omega or even enroll in another university. That level of fear is matched in Moscow, with the murders appearing to be random and the killer still on the loose. Many students choose not to return to campus.
Still no suspects or any sign of a weapon.
The individual is still out there, right? We need to be vigilant. We need to watch out for our neighbors.
In the days following the murders, what was everyone at school going through?
It was terrifying.
Nick Trotta and Sidney Clark are students at Washington State University in Pullman, a quick 15-minute drive from the University of Idaho.
The entire culture of WSU and University of Idaho changed. Business slowed down. No one was out. Everybody stayed in.
We didn't used to lock our doors, and it's a really safe place to live. I was so scared that something was going to happen, and I was by myself with nothing, to keep me safe.
That's another very astute comparison between Bundy and Idaho, between Tallahassee and Idaho, because the killer, the alleged killer in Idaho, was on the run. What went through your mind when you came to from your injuries and you knew this guy was still out there?
It was terrifying to me because the police had asked, do you know of anybody who would ever be so upset with you that would hurt you in that way. And I didn't know of anybody, and I didn't know the person that attacked me. Were they going to attack me again?
The fact is, as long as that person's out, I felt like every young woman was at risk. And that was scary.
A possible break in the case of the 4 slain University of Idaho students.
We have information of a white vehicle that was in the area either during the time frame of the homicide or around the time frame of the homicide, and we are just wanting to talk to the individuals who are in that vehicle. They may have some valuable information for us, and we're looking for a 2011 to a 2013 Hyundai Elantra.
The car is the key to the whole case. Ted Bundy, he actually had revamped the inside of his VW Bug to accommodate bringing a body into it, or an unconscious girl, to put her in the passenger part. And that car became the focus of law enforcement. And on the other hand, the white Elantra becomes the focus of a nationwide search.
We have tips coming in. We have investigators out every day interviewing people.
Where was he? Washington State University Police Department on campus noticed a white Elantra in front of the apartment houses and contacted Moscow police and the FBI. They're like, hey, wait a minute. One of the students over here has a white Elantra.
That student?
Bingo, Brian.
Brian Kohberger becomes the prime suspect, although he says he will be exonerated. Police learn he trades out his license plate just days after the murders.
I understand the person of interest in Idaho.
I mean, we'll give it to him. His birthday was coming up. He probably did need to change over his license plates, but he didn't have to.
Changed his license plates. Ted did have a number of different license plates in his Volkswagen, and I think that was to eliminate a trail.
Did you ever see his Elantra out there?
Yeah. Shortly after the Moscow murders, Kohberger's neighbor, who wants to remain anonymous, says he shared an eerie conversation with the same man, now at the center of the police investigation.
The week after these murders happened, he brought up, he's like, have you heard about these murders?
But to you, he actually says, have you heard about the murders?
Yeah, when we were talking, he said, have you heard about these murders? And I was like, yeah, it's because it just happened. He's like, yeah, it seems like they don't have any leads. And I was like, yeah, I guess not. And then he's like, yeah, they think it's a crime of passion.
He also tells us his wife was wary of their new neighbor from day one.
She had an intuition about this guy.
I'm telling you, women's intuition, it's real. Did you ask her why?
He was odd, and I just can't put a finger on why. And I'm trying to think.
We know.
I don't know. I can't really put a finger on it. When he first moved here, I was talking to his dad outside first, because the dad was out there. Brian must have been organizing the apartment. He was like, why don't you meet my son Brian? He has some trouble making friends sometimes. And then he came down, and he was a little odd, but I'm kind of odd to some people, so I didn't think much of it.
What did he like to talk about?
Well, he liked to talk about his major and stuff that he was into, like forensics and stuff.
This guy supposedly knew everything about a crime scene and how killers work and how killers think.
Kohberger's interest in crime spans back years. He even worked as a security guard, and in the fall of 2022, applies for an internship at the police department that neighbors Moscow.
Bundy was a law student and eventually passed the bar and walk amongst us, and then just morph into a homicidal maniac.
Both Bundy and the current suspect, Brian Kohberger, are highly educated and highly articulate.
I have found that an interesting theme. Ted was studying, in law school when he was arrested. One of the worst things that happened to me in my whole career, if not life, was when Ted told me once, the reason I was his lawyer for so long is because we were so much alike. And went into the men's room and threw up. And I told him how much that bothered me. And he later explained to me that what he meant was if he hadn't gone down the dark side, he wanted to do what I did. He wanted to be a defense lawyer.
As Thanksgiving break passes and finals end, the fear on campus is still palpable. It's been more than 1 month since the murders, and students, still without answers, enter another holiday break, Christmas. One of those students heading home for the holidays, Brian Kohberger. His father, Michael, flies from Pennsylvania to Washington, and the two set out on a cross-country trip back home in that white Elantra.
This is when they had this 3-day trip across the United States. They had the FBI in them all the way across.
Police in Indiana pull over Kohberger not once but twice during that 2,500-mile father-son road trip. The stops are caught on police body cam video.
Where are you headed?
Well, we coming from WSU. Yeah, it's a long haul. You guys scared of airplanes?
While Moscow continues to mourn and 4 families spend Christmas without their loved ones, Kohberger's home with his family for the holidays, and authorities watch his every move. They reportedly see Kohberger meticulously cleaning his white Elantra. Authorities also spot Kohberger take his family's trash to the neighbor's trash bin at 4 a.m. That trash is tested.
They checked the DNA on that. Bingo, 99.9%. It's the match between the DNA on the sheath and the DNA, whatever trash they pulled out. Now you're really zeroing in on this guy.
47 days after the murders, Kohberger arrested, charged with burglary and 4 counts of first-degree murder.
Feels like a little bit of weight has been relieved and things are on the right track and we're moving in the right direction.
Just like Kohberger, Ted Bundy's arrested weeks after the Chi Omega murders.
A suspect in the slaying of 2 Tallahassee co-eds last month. Theodore George Bundy was arrested.
Let's go. Theodore Robert Bundy, you are charged, indictment, 2 counts burglary and 2 counts murder in the first degree, 3 counts attempted murder in the first degree. In the name of and by the authority of the state of Florida.
When you heard Bundy had been caught, did you ever think that may not be the right guy?
I definitely thought that because I'd never heard of Theodore Bundy in my life. I didn't personally know him. I didn't know him as a student at FSU. So I was fearful. What if it wasn't him?
How about you?
Your greatest hope is that it was him because you want him off the street. You want him unable to hurt anybody else.
And that is the hope of everyone in Moscow. We are here in front of the Latah County Courthouse in Moscow, Idaho. In the courthouse is also the jail that is housing currently murder defendant Brian Kohberger. It's eerily similar to the setup for Ted Bundy. It is right behind me that the victim's family showed up for a hearing, intent on looking Kohberger in the eyes, and they did. Very reminiscent, running parallel to the Bundy survivors who had to look Bundy in the eye as he actually questioned them.
Wow.
Day after day, the handsome and the very glib Bundy helped run his own defense.
What was it like looking at Bundy in court? What do you remember
Calling him handsome.
about him at trial?
I didn't want to look at him. And it wasn't because I was scared. I wasn't scared of him, but I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of I cared anything about him or what he was doing or what he felt like, or I gave my testimony and I left.
He seemed so confident that he was innocent and he was going to get his way and he was going to win.
What do you believe these victims have before them? The ones that lived.
It's going to be very present in their lives. It's going to be a long process.
Prosecutors have announced that they will seek the death penalty in this case. In Idaho, the method employed in carrying out death sentences is lethal injection.
Karen and Cheryl say
Not anymore.
they never felt real closure until Ted Bundy's execution.
At 16 minutes after the hour, the country's most notorious killer was dead by electrocution. Hundreds of onlookers cheered and celebrated as word came that Ted Bundy was finally dead.
He was such an escape artist. I was always worried. I mean, really, until the day he was executed, that was the day I knew he was never going to hurt another girl.
As police continue to sift through Kohberger's past, many wonder if Kohberger, like Ted Bundy, will be connected to other crimes.
I would not be surprised if through a good police investigation and now with all the technology we have, that there could be additional victims. They're tracking his life probably since he was 12. You don't just wake up at 28 and say, I'm going to be a mass murderer. Don't. It's a pattern. I mean, Ted told me the first person he killed was when he was 12. And it was a boy. And it just escalates and escalates. If Ted hadn't been arrested by chance,
He looks small there.
would have killed many, many more people.
I mean, he looks like hell.
Judge enters a not guilty plea for the accused killer in the University of Idaho murders after Brian Kohberger chose to stand silent during his arraignment.
Mr. Kohberger, do you understand the charge in count 2, murder in the first degree? Yes.
Your Honor, we will be standing silent.
Okay, because Mr. Kohberger is standing silent, I'm going to enter not guilty pleas on each charge.
As Kohberger's team builds his defense and students and victims' families work to define a new normal, Bundy's survivors hope looking back on their stories will help others look ahead.
What advice do you have for the girls that lived?
To just recognize that their lives are still intact. The best thing that they can do is figure out what they want to do with the rest of their life without the consideration of being a victim. Make your life a testament to the girls that have died. Be able to go when you're where Cheryl and I are 45 years ago and say, we have a life well lived. We
survived.
We survived.
We hope they'll survive with spirit and hope and strength.
Yeah.
They've got the opportunity to enjoy their life and remember their friends too.
Madison, Maddie Mae, she was just such such a great kid, such a perfect little baby, and so just smart and funny and beautiful.
Our daughter was super driven. She was driven and she was going to go somewhere in life.
We're here to honor the life and legacy of our son and brother, Ethan Chapin, one of the most incredible people you'll ever know.
She was so positive and lighthearted and understood the gift of life more than anyone I know.
What, if anything, do you believe would help give the victims' families some sort of closure in this case?
Just know that there's a lot of people in this world that are praying for them and thinking of them. I hope they can look to God for some sort of peace.
It makes me so sad that somebody else has to go through, the family, the community. You know, they love their college students. They love their children. It makes me sad that they've got to go through what Tallahassee went through. I hope that they have all the evidence that they need to convict the correct person, and that whatever the rules are in Idaho, that he gets the maximum that he deserves for his crime.
Hey, Kathy.
It was a time in these victims' lives that was still innocent. You know, they had the rest of their lives to punch a clock, to answer to a boss, to face real grown-up issues. This was their last chance at being a kid. That was brutally ended, according to police, by Brian Kohberger. A very eerily similar copycat killing to Ted Bundy. We hope for healing, we hope for strength, and we hope for justice for the 4 students.
There's her green gloves that her kid made her. Bright green. Why is he so far away from her? Okay. That was the end of it. I was just listening to, I was watching the drone. I was like, where is it going to go? If you're just now joining us, welcome in, everybody. We were going over the differences and similarities between Ted Bundy and Brian Koberger, and we just watched a Fox Nation special that had a couple of the survivors from the Omega house, the Chi Omega house that Ted Bundy had went in and savagely ravaged. And now I was going to show you guys this article before we close it out for tonight, but it's just the Ted Bundy survivors see eerie similarities between their gruesome attacks and Brian Koberger's alleged rampage. So this is going to be about the ladies that were just talking a minute ago. But the brutal killings of 4 University of Idaho students have captured the attention of the nation as suspect Brian Koberger awaits his trial. But 2 survivors of notorious serial killer Ted Bundy warn his murders bear an eerie resemblance to the FSU sorority house killings. There have been a lot of mass murders, but Koberger seemed to almost pick a murder that mirrored one of Bundy's. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. Survivor Karen Pryor said on Fox News Parallels of Evil. Brian Koberger, a criminology PhD student accused of the home invasion, unalivings of 4 University of Idaho undergrads, was indicted by a grand jury in Latah County, Idaho earlier this month. This is an old article, so. He is accused of sneaking into the college town rental home around 4 a.m. on November 13th, 2022, and killing Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. When news broke about the murders, Bundy survivor Cheryl Thomas said reports brought her back to the events of January 15th, 1978. I could relate, Thomas told Fox Nation's Nancy Grace. Pryor added it brings back the memory when she managed to just barely survive Bundy's rampage at a sorority house. Early in the morning of January 15th, Bundy broke into the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University, where he unleashed hell on sleeping sorority sisters. He attacked and bludgeoned 4 girls at the house, leaving Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy dead. Pryor was one of the sorority house survivors. The police rushed to the Sigma Chi house, rushed to the Chi Omega house. Bundy fled the scene and ended up breaking into a nearby duplex where he attacked Thomas in her own bed. My neighbors heard when I was being attacked. They heard moaning, so they called and they could hear through the wall my phone ringing. I didn't answer, she said. Then they called again, and when they heard running, so at that point, Ted Bundy was running out and getting out through the kitchen window, and they called 911 because it was too weird of a sound of going next door. Thank you, Matcha Chi. Thank you. It's very sweet of you. Thanks for the super sticker. When asked how Koberger's alleged killings mirrored Bundy's, Pryor said he broke into the house as Bundy broke into the sorority house and went kind of systematically from person to person to kill them. The 28-year-old Washington State University PhD student was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and another felony burglary. After allegedly sneaking into the 6-bedroom house near the University of Idaho, about 10 miles away from the Washington apartment where he killed 4 students. For over a month, police and law enforcement officials were relatively silent on their search for a suspect until Koberger was arrested on December 30th, 2022. Similarly, Bundy broke into the sorority house and duplex, attacking his victims and escaping without a trace for weeks. Private investigator Bill Warner told Parallels of Evil host Nancy Grace that his initial thought was that the Idaho killer was a copycat of Bundy. Ted Bundy's former lawyer, John Henry Brown, noted in the special that in both the Idaho and Bundy cases, rage seemed to play a central role in how the victims were murdered. It was so random and the manner of homicide was so brutal, Brown said. I've done probably 50 murder cases in my career, maybe more, and these are the only 2 that have similarities. Almost all of them involve weapons, guns mostly, or fist fights, things like that, or self-defense. This is just downright brutal. It's rage. Whoever did this was full of rage. Bundy had used a log to beat his victims, including Thomas and Pryor, while Koberger allegedly used a knife to stab 4 victims. But we're now learning that Kaylee's nose was broken. He could have most definitely used the butt of the knife you know, to hit her in the face. That's what I think he did. But his fist, he could have used his fist as well because he was boxing and stuff. So like he knew how to throw a punch, I'm sure. So Bundy had used a log, and then Brown explained that both weapons being close to the victim and require a lot of time and rage to kill an individual. They're brutal and they're designed to basically destroy the inside of your body as well as the outside of your body. That's an indication of a great deal of rage on the part of the perpetrator, no question about it. Fox News special even looks, sorry, I'm losing my voice. Uh-oh. Maybe if I get a drink, that will help. The Fox News special, whatever, even looks at how key pieces of evidence like the vehicle helped track down suspects in both the Bundy and Idaho case. In the aftermath of the brutal crimes, both college towns were rocked, and students at the two universities applied a new level of caution to their daily routines. Bundy eventually confessed to at least 30 murders and was executed in Florida in 1989. I was 4. While Koberger has been charged, he still awaits a 6-week trial, which will begin in October, which it won't because it's going to start in August. But this is an older ad. So a judge entered pleas of not guilty to all charges for Brian at his arraignment Monday, more than 6 months after police alleged he fatally stabbed 4 University of Idaho undergrads in their off-campus home. So yeah, he had 6 months to sit in jail and still not stand up and say, I'm not guilty. He sat there. He didn't even stand silent. He sat silent. Yeah, Elizabeth Brown. I don't think there would be either. If there was, we know that. I mean, we know what would happen. Oh, that's okay, Courtney. But I think I'm actually done for the night. I'm actually done. I saw that before I jumped on here that Stephen Christie was doing an interview. So we'll go over that tomorrow. Or tomorrow or the next day. I want to go over Chelsea Grimm's case. So we'll either do that tomorrow or Tuesday, and we'll do the opposite. We'll do an opposite on opposite days. We'll do one Idaho, one Chelsea Grimm. Chelsea Grimm's going to be showcased on America's Most Wanted Missing Persons tomorrow, and I want to watch that and take some notes. And then I also wanted to there's some articles online from her family, and I reached out to her sister to see if there was anything that her sister would like for me to add into the live, but I haven't heard back yet. I haven't looked in a while though, so she might have wrote me. I never get on Instagram. It's like first time in years. So I was going to go over to X and see if there was anything over here, but I don't think there's. Let me see. Okay, so I wasn't okay. I wasn't going to say anything, but I thought this too. But Brian Enton is saying Dr. Ramsland has not communicated with anybody. She has not communicated with Brian Koberger since he was arrested. She wants everyone to know that, I guess. So. Despite another report, Dr. Catherine Ramsland tells me she has not communicated with anyone. So, yeah. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about that. I don't know. Have a good night, Walt. Okay, so there wasn't anything else on. That was the only thing I saw on X, but. And then, of course, the hearing tomorrow is sealed, but we might be able to get transcript after, after the hearing. They might have a closed hearing and he might be like, people could have heard this. I'm just going to release it. Or, like they might do that. So we'll have to see what they do. But I think it'll be pretty interesting. Let's see. If there's anything under their cases. It doesn't say what the hearing will be about. So I will keep my eyes open for anything that comes out. It's at 11:30 tomorrow, so that'll be 1:30 our like Eastern Standard Time. but I'll make sure I keep an eye out. And if, when we know anything, I'll let you guys know. My comment was blocked too. It's my channel. I was trying to talk to y'all earlier and it was like kept blocking my comments. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't say nothing. Yeah, no, she was not Ramsley. Yeah, no, not with Kobe's family. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But that's what she's saying right now. I don't know. But I hope you guys have a great evening tonight. Have a good sleep. I'll see you guys all tomorrow evening. So either Monday or Wednesday, me and Southernish are going to do our live together. We're going to do just an open panel so other people can come up and talk too. But we're just going to talk about just some stuff that's going on. I think it's going to be a good live though. It'll be fun. But I'll see you guys all tomorrow. And if I don't see you tomorrow because it is Cinco de Mayo, you know, don't drink too much. Make sure you get an Uber if you go out or a Lyft or whatever, and have a fun time. But happy Cinco de Mayo. Can't even say it. I need to go to bed. Have a good night, everybody. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful day tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up now. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt.